So I've been getting some questions from you guys about what kind of machinery I'm running out here. So I thought I'd take a few minutes today and talk about my tractor. Here she is. This is an International Harvester 460. I thought maybe I'd talk a little bit today about what it is and what I know about it. I don't know a lot about them. My tractor, I think, is like a 59 or 60 model. You can tell by the serial numbers. There's a way to decode that on the internet. There's a lot of information out there about these things. I'm not an expert on them, but there are guys out there that really know their stuff and really know these things well. I know they have a 6-cylinder gas engine, most of them. There's a few of them that have diesels. The 560s had a lot more diesels in them, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But they're kind of very similar tractor. I think the 560 is just a little bit bigger. They're pretty good. I can tell you, when you get these things dialed in, these 6-cylinder IH motors, man, they hum like a sewing machine. They're pretty awesome. So I picked this up a couple of years ago, just got it off Craigslist, I think, or maybe Facebook Marketplace or something, I don't know. I proceeded to do a lot of work to it. Put LED headlights on it. I replaced every hose on the loader here and on the back of the trailer, or I'm sorry, back of the tractor back there. I ended up having to put new tires on it because the old ones, the tread was still okay, but they got to where they would not hold air. And you know, that's a bad day. So had to have one of the cylinders rebuilt on here. You know, the cool thing about these things is here in the Midwest, they're all over the place. Not just IHs, but these old John Deeres, Masseys, and Olivers and stuff. They're just all over the place. They're still in use. These things are 50, 60, 70 years old. And people are still using them. My neighbors use an old Farmall from the 40s or maybe early 50s to run their grain auger. They just hold up and run forever. So I would not be afraid to pick one of these up if you're you're living out in an acreage and you're looking for a way to do some work around your place. This thing, I've used the heck out of it. It of course has a big loader on it, and I use that mainly in the winter time for snow removal. You guys will get a glimpse of that here probably before too long. It's early November, so yeah, we'll be using that for snow removal. I've probably got maybe, gosh, I'm trying to think how much money I've got into this whole thing. Maybe 5,000. Somewhere between $5,000 and $5,500. I think the tractor itself was $3,200 with the loader, and I don't know, it was like $800 for tires and another $600-700 for hoses, and you know, then some of the odds and ends and stuff I've done. But really, that sounds like a lot for a 60-year-old tractor, and it kind of is. But if you compare that to what something new costs with a loader, or even nearly new, or what a skid loader costs, it's a lot less. If you know anything at all about working on engines or anything, they're really pretty simple. I was kind of afraid at first of it. I didn't know what I was getting into, but they're really pretty simple to work on. I had this in there with the goats, and they ate some of the wires. I got to fix that at some point. Yeah, anyway, the diesels are a little different story. I don't know much about diesels, so unless you do, I'd maybe steer clear of them. I don't really know how to work on them. So I ended up buying a gas one, and it's kind of nice not having to run winter diesel in it. But that's not really that big of a deal, I guess. You just got to keep your stuff separate. So I had it in here the other day. I was changing oil for the season and greasing it up and stuff, and that's why I got oil all over the place. although it does leak a little oil and a little hydraulic fluid, which, you know, you can see maybe in there up out of the hydraulic box there. I don't know exactly where it's coming from. I need to clean it up and maybe try to figure it out. Sometimes with these things, for every leak you fix, you want 2 more, and so sometimes it's just easier to just keep topping them off. So things to look out for on one of these tractors. The big thing is, and this was a problem when they were new, was the rear end. The differential, the axle would break on them. The story goes, from what I've heard, is that IH carried over the rear end from the previous model in the 50s. It was a much smaller tractor. It was a 4-cylinder engine, and then they put this big 6-cylinder in, and they started having problems almost immediately. They thought it was heavy duty enough, and it was not, and it was, you know, they replaced a lot of these under warranty. One of the ways you can tell if it's been replaced is, I think that tag, that S-7, I think that is what tells you, or maybe 5-7, I can't remember. Anyway, there's a stamping on the ID plate that will let you know if the factory has replaced it. Of course, a good rule of thumb is if it's 60 years later and your machine is still running, still driving, and still in operation, there's a pretty good chance that that has been replaced under warranty at some point in its life many years ago. Now be aware, you buy one of these IHs and they do not have a 3-point attachment. It is a 2-point fast hitch. This was both a good thing and a bad thing. It's really nice because it goes up and down easy peasy, and you can pick up, you know, if you do it right, you can pick up a trailer, pick up an implement without even getting off the track. What hurt them later on, and I think it was probably like the 70s, is that attachments and implements just got so big that this 2-point hitch couldn't handle it, and they did not want to adopt a 3-point. They wanted to stick with their 2-point fast hitch because they thought if they had their own hitch, then they could use proprietary implements and they'd sell more, and it kind of backfired from what I understand, what I've read. And that sort of began the downhill spiral for IH. They ended up getting bought out by Case. There are 2-point fast hitch attachments out there. One of the things I would highly recommend if you have something like this is get out there. You know, every county fair I've ever been to in Iowa, and it's probably like that all over the Midwest, has a tractor show, an antique tractor show at it. Get out there and start chatting with these old guys that know these machines. They are the guys that are going to have the stuff you need, and they're going to have the know-how. It's a skill set that is kind of dying off. You know, these machines are, like I said, 50, 60, 70 years old. The age group of guys that used them when they were new as, you know, field tractors, these guys are in their 70s at minimum. Some of them are a lot older than that. So the people that really know how to work on these things, they're kind of dying off. So I would advise you, if you have something like this, is go to one of those tractor shows and just start chatting people up. Sometimes you run into a younger guy, sometimes it's older, usually it's older guys. They will have the answers you need for whatever you're working on. And they usually have some implements and equipment that'll fit them. Wheels, hitches, loaders, stuff like that. It's good to get in good with people like that. They know what they're doing. Now in the same vein as if it's running and driving and in operation 60 years later, it's probably an okay tractor. I will say that I had a lot of trouble with this thing with the fuel system. What happens is the fuel tank gets, you know, it's old, it's decades and decades old, and it gets full of rust, and that rust comes down and gets into the filter and gets into the carburetor. I really struggled with that for like probably the first 2 years I had this tractor. I just could not figure out what the heck was going on. I thought I had a carburetor problem. I have had that carburetor apart probably a dozen times cleaning stuff out. But once I figured out that it was all starting up here in the tank, that I've had very little trouble. What I did, you cannot buy a tank for these that I'm aware of. I could not find one, a replacement tank, so you've got to work with what you've got. I ended up putting some cleaner in it, dissolving the rust, putting an epoxy resin in it, and then putting it back together, and that cut down big time on my rust problems. But I still get some because it has baffles inside the tank. There was no way to get that epoxy on the baffles, so that's where the majority of my corrosion in the tank is coming from. But it has cut down on it majorly, and I cannot emphasize enough a good fuel filter. This one works. I would like to get something a little bigger. Even this one is kind of getting cruddy. I need to get another one. But if you don't have an inline filter, all that crud is going to go into the carburetor, and it is going to be a nightmare, and you're going to wish you never bought one of these things. So yeah, clean the tank out, make sure you got a good filter, then worry about your carburetor, because I'll guarantee you, if you've got carburetor drivability problems, I guarantee you the problem is upstream. Everybody I talk to that has one of these has the same problem. I've got a buddy that's got a 560. He's got the same problem. I know some people with 656s, 706s, some of the old Farmalls from the 40s, 50s. Everybody I know has the same problem. And the answer is have a good filter and or clean the tank out. So the cool thing about these machines is there's surprisingly a lot of parts available for them. There are things that you can't get, like I mentioned, the gas tank, but all your maintenance parts are available. You know, your filters and anything like fittings and all that kind of stuff. You can get generators, you can get water pumps, and you can get internal parts, transmission parts, engine parts. You can rebuild these motors. These things last forever. My tractor has 7,000 hours on it, which is almost unheard of for a gas motor. I'm assuming that it's been rebuilt at some point. But the point is, the parts are out there. Most of the stuff that this thing uses and needs, you can get. You can't get the tin, things like that, but just about everything else is available. So, like I said, you know, if you're needing some sort of a tractor to get some work done, move some snow, whatever, on an acreage, I would not be afraid to pick something like this up. If you cannot afford $20 or $30 or $40,000 for something newer, or a skid loader or something like that, economical alternative. So don't be afraid of them. They're not that bad to work on if you do have problems. If you know anything about cars and carburetors and things like that, you can probably handle one of these. So anyway, that's my machine. I will be doing some more maintenance on it, and I've got to put some snow chains on it and a few other things. So I don't know, if you want to see more of this thing, drop me a comment and let me know. I like it. If you guys like it too, I will make some more videos with it. So thanks for stopping by. Join us again.